For the last 16 years, we've been ministering in the country of Lesotho as missionaries. We're ordinary people, but we live an extraordinary life because of the power of God working through us to change lives for Christ. Today we're going to give you a little glimpse into our lives here in Lesotho. But first, let me tell you a little bit about how God called us to be missionaries. Both Stephanie and I felt like we were to be missionaries when we were still children. And my call came partly out of a sense of adventure. I enjoyed missionary services. And when I was 8 or 9 years old, I felt like God wanted me to be a missionary. And part of that was because I enjoyed the adventurous stories that missionaries told, and it just seemed like an interesting and a good life. During my teenage years, I was not so enthusiastic about becoming a missionary. I was not serving the Lord, and I had my own plans for my life. When I was, 19 years old, I started dating Stephanie. And as I began thinking towards the future and wondering where life would take me, God began to speak to me about being a missionary again. And I had this sense that unless I obeyed His call, I would never be happy. And so I decided to take the first step forwards in that journey in serving the Lord. I enrolled at Penview Bible Institute, but I didn't enroll in the missions program there. I was still struggling with that idea of actually becoming a missionary. After my first year there, I transferred to Hope Sound Bible College. And at that point, I felt very clearly that God wanted me to be a missionary, and I surrendered to that call and began studying missions at Hope Sound Bible College. Stephanie and I got married about halfway through college, and we finished up our college degrees. She did a double major in TESOL and in missions, and I did a degree in missions with a focus in ministerial studies. Another really important part of my preparation to become a missionary was that I got a job working for FEA Ministries as a mechanic. I learned so much about fixing vehicles and keeping them running that has really been a blessing to know here on the mission field. In our senior year, Dr. Keaton invited Stephanie and I out for supper to talk about serving HIM as missionaries. We went to Denny's that night and had a nice meal with Dr. Keaton, and after we ate, he told us about 3 places where HIM was looking for missionaries. One of those places was Haiti. Another option, I've kind of forgotten where it was. And then the third option was here in Lesotho. And as he spoke that night, both Stephanie and I felt very clearly that God wanted us to come to Lesotho. Normally, by personality, we're the type of people that would say, well, give us a month and we'll pray about it. But that night in Denny's, we committed to going to Lesotho because God had called us, and we knew very clearly that was where He wanted us to go.
When I was 10 years old, God called me to mission work. I was in a mission service where Brother Raymond Shreves was speaking. Initially, I felt like I would be doing medical missions, but as I matured, I felt like the focus was changing to children's ministry and teaching English. I went to Hope Sound Bible College. In 2000, I graduated with a double major in TESOL and missions.
Remember when we first came to Lesotho, Steph? Things have changed since then. The road was terrible out here. It took us at least 45 minutes to get in from Maseru. Part of the time, we didn't have any electricity here at the house. We couldn't see an electric light anywhere. There was a lot of adjustments to make then too, weren't there? We had to learn a lot. One of the things that was difficult was how people's sense of time was different. You could come to a meeting an hour late and everybody's there waiting for you, and as soon as you're there, you're there. And it wasn't like you were late, just you were there, and that was what was important. And that really frustrated me at first. Another challenge was the language barrier. Quite a few people in Lesotho speak English, but out in the villages especially, most of them just speak Sesotho. And just trying to communicate with people, finding somebody that could translate for me, people talking to me and I have no idea what they're saying. And the more they realize I don't understand, the louder they shout at me, and I don't know what's going on. Those are some real challenges. I still remember the first day I came here. We crossed the border from South Africa into Lesotho, and through the city of Missionary and the traffic and just people walking in the roads and just all the differences. And then we came out on the little dirt road out to the village of Matuking, finally down the little lane into the clinic here. I came to get the house ready for Steph. We had to get the solar panels put up so we'd have lights at night, and I had to buy propane so that our refrigerator would work and we could cook and make sure the water was working. Back then our water came from a spring. The springs are up on top of the mountain, and it worked sometimes and sometimes it didn't. And if the water wasn't working, then we'd have to go and talk to the chief and get his permission to go see what pipes were broken or what was clogged up. And sometimes he'd send some people with us to help us out. Other times I'd just go by myself because we wanted running water in our house. Lots changed from since we first came to Lesotho. Now there's a lovely paved road right through the village of Matuking. This term we got electricity here where it used to be completely dark at night. You can go out into the village and there's porch lights everywhere. All these modern advances have made the quality of our life better and made our ministry a lot easier. Before we came to Lesotho, I learned a little bit of Sesotho through a linguistics class in college. But since those early days, both of us have learned quite a bit of Sesotho. I'm able to preach now, and we carry on all our meetings in Sesotho. That makes it so much easier to communicate, and it helps us to get into people's lives. We can understand them, and they can understand us now.
When we first came to Lesotho, one of the challenges that I struggled with was cooking. Coming from America, I was used to prepared foods, convenience foods, and so I had to do a lot of cooking from scratch. Another challenge with the cooking was the conversion to the metric system, and also even for the oven. All of that was different for me. Another thing that I struggled with when I first came here was the lack of privacy. I'm more of a private person, and living on a compound and having someone working in the house for me and people looking in the windows and just being around the compound with a lot of other people was a big adjustment. Even though there have been a lot of cultural adjustments for me coming to Lesotho, overall I have come to love the country and the people, and this has become our home. One of the highlights of our time in Africa is that we have been able to adopt Caleb. We applied with the government of Lesotho to adopt the end of 2013. The whole application process was a lot easier than we anticipated. We finalized the adoption process and brought him home on April 27, 2015. Come here, give him a kiss. Mommy's lap? What are you doing? Huh? Is it itchy? Is it itchy? Does Sissy put it on you? Caleb has brought a lot of joy. Every day we thank God for putting Caleb in our family.
I really appreciate Stephanie's support to my ministry. With having children and homeschooling and all of that, her ministry is really at home now. But she does so much to support me in the role that God has called me to. I really appreciate that. On Mondays, she tries to get a strong start with homeschooling the children. And that day, I usually spend a lot of time at my desk doing administrative work like emails and bookkeeping, things like that. On Tuesdays, a lot of times I'm in Maseru in the city for meetings and taking care of things that need to be done in town. And then on Wednesdays, once again, is admin work and just whatever needs done that day. On Wednesday evenings, I usually teach a Bible study someplace. And then on Thursdays is kind of our day off. We go to Ladybrand that day in South Africa, and that means we have to cross the border into South Africa. Our girls are taking music lessons there. And then occasionally on a Thursday afternoon, we hold a service at the nursing home in Ladybrand for the older people there. We like to encourage the older people, but it's also a way for us to get our children involved in ministry too, and that's important for us. And then on Thursday evening is just kind of the highlight of our weekend. A lot of times we get together at Johan and Hessie van der Merwe's farm, We get to be with the other missionaries, the other HIM missionaries. We pray together and we have our monthly field council meetings there, whatever. And it's just a really good time of fellowship, really special people to us. Friday, the schedule really speeds up a lot. I'm getting ready for the weekend, usually during the day on Friday, getting prepared for the Chinese broadcast that evening. And then as soon as the broadcast is over, I often rush to the Bible school and teach the second period evening class there. And we usually stop around 9 or 9:30 at the Bible school, and then I have to drive back home. So it's a late night on Fridays. Saturday, we have meetings with the pastors. Sometimes we do some continuing education with them. Oftentimes, we have to preach at funerals on Saturday. So Saturday is just a busy day, then getting ready for the ministry on Sunday. Sunday, my day usually starts pretty early. I often leave by 7 or 7:30 to go to a church somewhere. And Stephanie's always busy that day too. She will be teaching the children's Sunday school class at Matuking and then going to church and helping out a little bit with the children during the church service. But by Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening when we get back, we don't have an evening service here. So it's our family time. We play hide and seek together with the children or whatever.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's a really special time to us. Our children have grown up here in Lesotho. Caitlin speaks the language fluently, even better than I do, and Christelle has mastered it too. And so they have a lot of fun with their friends. Usually after school in the afternoons, some other children from the village, some neighbors will come in and they play together for a while, and sometimes they play games that are common in America. Other times it's things that the children here in Lesotho do. Our children are a blessing to us. Caitlin is at that age now where she can help out some with ministry. She helps Stephanie with the Sunday school class now, working with some of the younger kids sometimes. And whenever I take Caleb along with me, he just opens all kinds of doors for conversation and ministry. And so truly the scripture is right that children are a blessing from the Lord. It's been a good 16 years. There's been some challenges, but I've never doubted that God spoke to me that night in Denny's and called me to be a missionary in Lesotho.
Being a missionary is extremely fulfilling. There is joy in seeing people who have never heard the gospel come to know Christ because of your ministry. It's thrilling to watch those same Christians become discipled and mature in their walk with Christ. And yet, with the joys of being a missionary, come many difficulties that most of us may never experience. The separation of being away from your family, the adjustment to a brand new culture, where people do things very differently from what you've been used to all your life, and sometimes those things just don't make sense. While these adjustments may sometimes be challenging, yet it adds a layer of richness to the missionary's life. They get to experience sights and sounds and places that most people would only dream of seeing. They are blessed with special friendships of the people to whom they are ministering. Every day, all the way around the world, Hope International Missions has missionaries who are serving in these unique cultural settings. God is using them to transform people's lives for eternity. Glenn and Stephanie Galt are an example of a family who has completely given themselves to God and His service on the mission field. And as a result, so many people's lives have been changed. As you think about the Galts and other missionary families that are serving in Africa and places around the world, do continue to lift their ministry up in prayer, that God would help them to be effective as they're working with people and sharing the gospel. And yet, don't forget to pray for the day-to-day life that they live in a foreign place. Ask God to strengthen them and help them as they experience life on the mission field. Our missionaries are modern-day heroes. You have an important role to fulfill in the journey of their lives on the mission field.